Hello, my name is Thomas Gruber. I'm from the Helmholtz-Zentrum Dresden Rossendorf, which is a research center. And I would like to give a short insight how we use Mediawiki at our center. And so I would like to start with a short story about where I come from. The Helmholtz Center has over 1,470 employees. About half of it are scientists. At our research center, we have several large-scale facilities, like this, the ELBA radiation source, the high magnetic field laboratory, or an ion beam center. And the purpose is all these experiments, research, etc. needs to be documented. And a couple of years ago, they said that they wanted to use an electronic lab documentation tool, and we decided to choose Mediawiki as its central support. So I'm at the IT department and provide support on the central base. So that's come a little bit to my background. Actually, I started with my study with my chemist. Came to theoretical chemist, simulations. I came into programming, scripting, data analysis, and so on. And with the scientific background, I can understand the scientists, what they need, what they're doing, etc. And now I'm at the IT department, and I'm the bridge between the two communities, which is, I think, very essential. And now I can work as a scientist. I'm a kind of interpreter, also as a hub, because I collect all the information from the work that I got with the different partners at the Helmholtz Center, and can share it with the others. And many other things. So my main thing is to enable the scientists to do their science without the heavy load of documentation, and provide as much support as I am able to get a smooth documentation, to document all the metadata, which is then essential for analysis and publication. At our center, or at the, let's squeeze again, we discovered that there are several functionalities that we need to cover, and we tried to map several software to cover these functionalities. And in the middle, we see that, too fast, that we see that the documentation is one central part for the scientists, because all this IT background they don't know. But what they have in contact is the tool where they do their documentation. But it's not a standalone tool, because they don't want to do anything manual. They want to do as much automatically import the metadata from the software, from the tool, the control software, and so on. So the interfaces are very essential. So from the IT department, the API interface is essential, and Mediawiki has a rich API interface to specifically ask and request and write several informations into this. Many ask for some statistic usage, so I decided to start a Grafana dashboard. So just some small numbers. We have some, in each Mediawiki instance, you can use the statistic page to get all this information. I just monitored this on the Grafana instance, and so we have content pages, or here, let's say with the registered user, we have about over 500, 100 in the last year. Active users, you see about 30. Content pages, about 12,000. We have about 900 used data properties, and we assigned almost 600,000 values to this. And the number of page forms is like how many different object types we are already designed. So we extensively use the page forms to collect the structured metadata, so that the user not just write text on a page, so really have structured metadata what they can use to query. So now come to some live demos. In the first, I would start, what is my support for the scientist? I can, I'm first of all the contact person for this topic. And what they do, what I do when I in a new group, I look at what they have and how they're doing currently, and then find a way to do the step-by-step conversion to a digital version. Because I have to catch them all the way along, because the starting overhead is quite huge, and they have to see some results and advances step by step. So I make a plan, define the object type, define the metadata, what they have, and so on. Define the interfaces, where they get the metadata from, or have it added manually. Yeah, starting with the first version. And my goal is that at some point they can update on their own, at least on the low-level basis. If there are very specific questions, I will always be there to help. But to get my load covered by the others, to help more other groups. Yeah, basically I kind of found that some general object types, we have the person, devices, organization, we have the project level, we have sample series to group samples, we have experiments, which can be also looked as measurement groups and so on, analysis and so on. Yeah, so I will look at some live demo. So I will start with the so yeah, this was the Grafana dashboard. So there are different ways that you can design your main page. Usually for each group you use namespaces, lockdown extension to cover the write axis and read axis. The main page for each group is usually the starting point where they have the links to find everything what they need. So there are different ways. One way is here, starting with a search to find everything you have, and then for the different groups, to find the samples, project, measurement right at the starting point. You can start at any point you want, create it, and what I said before, defining the structure is how are the different object types are connected with each other via links, page links as properties. And here, if you start with each object, then you have to make sure that all the other object types are already linked and existing and so on. And one thing, for example, the samples. The sample, what they use are usually wafers. So the preparation of the wafer is quite a complex procedure. Here we have some general informations. We also used different types with show on select to have an interactive form. Also this tags, auto-completion and so on, different versions, drop down. And here at the bottom we use this multiple template. This template is quite huge because it has over 100 properties, because depending on the preparation step you choose, you get a complete different set. Oh. That's strange. Okay, sorry. Oh. Yeah. So that makes it a little bit more complicated to show it. Yeah. So what I wanted to show. So this is the starting page. So we have this query at the beginning. We have the what I said. We have the section for samples, project, and measurements. And so I just directly now go to the sample form. We have this interactive. We have this, if, for example, depending on what you choose, you can get different fields, show on select we used, and here comes this preparation step. So depending on what step you have here, you get a complete different set of properties. And that's why it takes quite long, especially if you have several steps to load the edit form page. So this is one of the problems we might have at a later point. If it's really getting long, it takes a little bit too long for the users to edit things. And also maybe render the page. So the next thing, yeah, this is what I want to show again, and exactly when I If I read, leave page, I don't want to change. Yeah, and for these, each step, we choose kind of this layout. And this rendering of this course it also takes long because we don't want to see all the fields. So each field that doesn't have a value needs to be hidden. So there's several if statements. If it has a value, then show it or not. And you can imagine if you have several steps and 1 to 100 properties at each one, it takes, as we've seen, rendering is a topic. Another group, which is they deal with rock samples that you can collect, and also with technical products. So here the focus is also on the sample database, and the preparation of these samples. And here we started to find a way how we can structure the forms in the metadata schema for sample classes. Yeah, to have a common section part, then different groups, load the different groups, and select different properties from each group, which is specific for this class. Let's see how we get further into this. And so here the starting page, they said they have different sections, expanded, and they don't show so many properties on the starting page because let's say they have several thousand samples. If you render a query at the beginning, it will take a long time for the main page to start. So the consensus was then to have the links to the samples to get to a separate page where you see then everything what you want to have. And sample series, yeah. So this is, for example, the form for this for a sample, and I just wanted to show some features what he had. For example, I just delete this. So, for example, if you want to find the location where the sample is currently located, the cabinet is not available because first I have to select the room, and depending on the room, I can then select the cabinet because it looks like this depends on feature is it looks for every page that has this room and which cabinets are assigned on that. And then you can pre-select the other ones. But yes, it's quite difficult, so we came into the limitations where we can interact within a form depending on what's added in another field. Yeah, so you see the forms are getting bigger and bigger and complex. It's already with the users in agreement. So yeah, this is, for example, sample series. Depending on what type of samples they are choosing, they're getting for each class a link. They go and create the preparation request, get the list, and so on. Yeah, I have to. And on the sample page, you also integrated the maps. If we have a geolocation, just some backup screenshots. Another example was for the hydrogen analysis electrolysis. Here the request was the person wasn't able to get all the camera settings and so on directly input, but it will be more or less as probably as you can imagine. You have a series and you change one parameter, you switch even through. So, and what I did here, this add measurement button has several query links in between. It looks for the last measurement done and takes these values. So each time you press a new measurement, it takes the value from the last measurement, and you can switch from one step to another to only change one value. And it is universal because I have to create this button on a template. It needs to be universal. And so it makes it comfortable not to add every value and not to have a default value which makes sense in all the cases. Yeah, and question I think I get at the end, the open question that I'm dealing with. So another topic that I wanted to, okay, the cable, now it's back. The interfaces. As yesterday I heard, or let's say, to create all these forms, I looked at this create class, but the problem was I cannot update any forms. So quite a couple of years ago, I started to say, okay, I'll write a Python script, which with an JSON syntax config file to define all my fields, all my properties. My Python script then generates the source code for the page and for the form and for the property pages, and just update the pages or create them as if it's needed. Yes, and yesterday I heard it's like the 13th version. The person that did it like that, but yeah. But in the last years, I realized that the format I have looked quite similar to JSON schema. So I don't know if it makes sense to switch to JSON schema, but yes, JSON schema doesn't support any special features from page forms, so there needs to be additional versions. And yeah, but let's come at the end to this topic, to my outlook. Now let's look at the use case, what we had at the one facility. Let's say they have an experiment. The detectors create files, and they have a control system, LabVIEW in this case, and they want to have automatic logging from all the parameters what they use in the Mediawiki, and maybe add manual metadata like the projects and the beam time, what's not from the control software. Then secondly, they have the data stored on a network. They have the data analysis, which is then triggered by LabVIEW, and all the output, some standard graphics could then also be logged to the electronic lab notebook. And later on, this can be used to publish on our Rodare and references on the publication where it's used. So how could it look like? Like LabVIEW, maybe some of you know it. It's like a graphic interface where you can draw and create your interface. In the background, you draw your script, like lines and blocks and so on. So basically, we have all our parameters, some settings, and here we can connect with the Mediawiki. The measurement day and the samples is the list which is directly obtained from the API of Mediawiki. And then we also set some parameters for the data processing, and this can be at the end then found on Mediawiki. We have our parameters, we have the plots from the data processing, we have the parameter of the data processing, we have the links to the data files, and we have the link of the workflow that is used, and so on. Yeah. So we also looked at some things that we used this JSON editor tool, which was already available, and applied this to create some pages or some web services where we can create now forms on the basis of JSON schema, and finally also create pages from this. So due to time, I get. If there are further questions, then can you ask me at the end. You also looked at a PDF export. If you have a form, we can have a link or create a link, create a PDF from it. So we insert all the metadata from this preparation request into this PDF form to fill it out and print it. Yeah. And then one big topic is metadata export or exchange. Let's say we have the form on Mediawiki is this, and for data side it looks differently. So we have to map and interchange the schema. So how can it be done? For example, the Mediawiki is an internal version, and Scicard is a metadata catalog which is reachable from the outside, but it needs to be converted into this JSON object to insert there. So how it can be done? So that brings me to my last slide, to the outlook. So what is my plan? Sure, I want to get in contact with more groups at the center if they are interested. And what I haven't mentioned yet is this one interesting project. This is Open Semantic Lab from Simon Stier, which already quite some know of him. In this Open Semantic Lab, it is possible to create forms on the basis of JSON schema. And the data is stored as a data JSON object. So let's see what it brings to me. So I will probably switch to this and merge all my wiki into this. Yeah, more integration, automatization, export systems. So this is one topic. Ontologies, vocabulary, is it essential? How can it be used, and so on. This is the research I'm going. Takes a lot of time, and yeah. So finally, I will thank you all. And this plot is from the OSL server. How the category classes are connected, and then you can use as a graphic. And it could also be used for, let's say you have a project with the experiment samples, you can create a graph like that, if we then use OSL. Okay, thank you.